All right, y'all, welcome back to Architect, a branding blueprint that builds authority. Just a couple of reminders. This is being recorded. It will be available in lab within the next 24 hours or so, as with all of our webinars throughout this execution cycle. And also as a reminder, we have our follow-up call with Ryan on Thursday, and that's an elite Q&A. So if you have any questions as you're kind of going through and building this stuff, that is a great place to bring those questions, and that's this coming Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. We also have a Facebook group for our elite members called Elite Commons. If you have not joined yet, please do. It's a private Facebook group where you can follow up with your fellow lab members, get peer-to-peer support, and also ask questions throughout the execution cycle. So with that in mind, I'm going to send it back to Ryan so we can get started with part 3.
Awesome. Well, so we have thought about who are we and why are we here, our values, right? And that's important because remember we talked about what is a brand, what does it have, and we need that emotional connection. Brand needs that unique point of view. That's one of the ways that's one of the reasons that you know, like, this is why I'm here, this is why I exist, because I have this point of view and it's unique and different. Differentiation is not about having the best features. That's going to change. Competitors are going to come and go. Customers' needs are going to change, right? But as long as your point of view stays unique and fresh and relevant, then you're going to be unique and fresh and relevant. So that's why we spent so much time talking about vision, mission, as well as values, those things that are going to anchor you. Spend a lot of time there because that is the essence of brand and the essence of your why and the reason that you exist. Then we talked about authority. How does authority happen? How do you reverse engineer authority? And that was important because if a brand is not authoritative, a brand does not occupy a space in the hearts and minds of the customer base. It doesn't matter how great your logo is, how intense your values are, how staunchly held, and just how gosh darn it, how hard you're trying. If you're not an authority, you're not going to break through. You're not going to be meaningful. So we talked about some of the ways you do that: tactical, practical. Right? Do you have a plan? Do you answer those specific questions? Do you maintain some absolutes? Do you have some core overarching beliefs that other people start nodding their head to? Right? Yeah, I like where you're going. I like where you're going. I want to follow you. That's what beliefs are all about. Right? Do you have some rites and rituals? So we talked about those. We talked about how you really want to make sure you're narrowing down in 3, working towards 4. Don't need all 5. So if you have a unique perspective, you have values, if you have authority, then believe it or not, you have everything that you need to be a brand. That's what a brand is. A brand is unique perspective combined with an authoritative position. That's the essence of a brand. A unique perspective and an authoritative position. We could literally stop right here. We could stop right here and I could say, now, go out and design a logo. Get your style guide made. And make sure that when you go through this process that the designers understand who you are, what you believe, your values. Make sure that that is reflected. And believe it or not, you would have almost everything that you need to build a brand. If you go back to the brand blueprint, we're almost done. But what we're going to spend some time focusing on right now is that last little piece that I think is important if you really want your brand to scale and to persist over time. And that's your brand voice. Codifying your brand voice. So right now, as you sit here today, or when you go back and you work with your team and over the course of the rest of this execution cycle, you're going to begin defining what is the voice of your brand. And the voice of the brand, just as the voice, your voice is going to be influenced by your values and your beliefs, your vision and your mission, where you're going. It's going to be influenced and it's going to find its way into those absolutes that you maintain, the beliefs that you put out there, the plan that you have, right? It's going to permeate all of that. But then something's going to happen. Over time, if you're successful, over time, that voice is going to degrade. Over time, that voice is going to get lost. Over time, other people are going to bring their own voice, their own perspective, and they're not going to remember all the work that you did today and during this execution cycle. They're not going to remember that. Your mission will have changed. Maybe some of your core values will have changed. They're not going to remember that. All that context will be forgotten. And you do the best that you can. Do the best that you can. You'll have training and onboarding that hopefully will inform them. Hopefully narrative and stories will be created about your company, about about that founding team that really brought everything together. Hopefully that will happen. But I can tell you in most cases it doesn't. It doesn't unless the brand voice is fully codified, unless it is put in to a fictional character. So I said before, brand is emotion. It's that emotional tug, right? We get that with our vision, with our beliefs. We get that with our mission, with our values. That's where the emotion comes from. I said that a brand is authority. We reverse engineered that. You know how to do that. But then I also said a brand is a fictional character. That's what we're going to talk about now. Because if your brand does not become a fictional character, if your brand stays just you, or it stays just the people, then once the people are gone, there'll come a day where you're going to want to sell your company, or you're going to want to leave your company, or the people who are there are going to leave. It's going to happen. Showed you before. We showed you the We Believe video. The vast majority of the people in that video are no longer at this company, and yet the voice persists. There's going to come a day when you are going to leave your brand, when key people are going to leave your brand. You want the voice to persist if you want the value to remain. How do you do that? That's what we're going to be answering in this section right now. So a couple opening questions. Why is Apple more loved than Dell? We're in Austin right now. Michael Dell was one of my primary entrepreneurial influences. I started at the University of Texas at Austin in 1999. My dorm room was right across the street from Jester Dormitory, where Michael Dell launched Dell Computer Company. I have friends who work for Dell. I like Dell. I have Apple products. I like Dell. I love Apple. I'm not alone. Why did that happen? They're both making the same kind of stuff around the same amount of time. I mean, really, at the time, Dell had a lot more tailwind. I mean, it was rocking and rolling. No Windows? That's a part of it. I bet there's a bit more, though.
No, phone.
Oh, the phone? Again, it's a part of it. Products are a part of it. But I think you'll see it comes down to a bit more than just some of the products. Stan Lee. How did Stan Lee beat DC Comics? So if you're a comic book nerd like me, you know that back in the 40s and 50s, DC Comics, they ruled the world. Early 60s, they had Batman, they had Superman, they had all the cool stuff. And then something happened in the late 60s, early 70s. This guy Stan Lee came along and started giving us these new characters, started giving us Spider-Man, the X-Men. And all of a sudden we realized they just felt different. They felt more human. So even though they were superheroes, they felt more human, they felt more interesting, they felt more like us. And as a result, Marvel wound up beating DC. Think about Marvel right now, the movies that are being created, the Marvel Universe. It's a more valuable franchise. Most would argue. And they got freaking Superman. You got the Man of Steel. Come on, you got Batman. Come on, and yet there's Marvel. Spider-Man movies, Avengers movies. I mean, it's just, it's different level kind of stuff. So how did that happen? What did Stan Lee do? And then lastly, why are these cows standing? Right? Why on earth does Chick-fil-A, a company that's closed on Sundays, how are they still able to sell more chicken than just about everybody else, including other chicken companies that got started way before they did? They sell more chicken than Kentucky Fried Chicken. They're closed on Sundays. Why do they have cows standing around telling people to eat more chicken? Right? Why does this stuff matter? This is when we get into codifying brand voice. So brands have a problem, right? Brands have a problem. And the problem is, to be human, right? This is kind of the brand paradox. For a brand to matter, it has to be human. It has to take on human characteristics. But if you swing that pendulum too far, and the brand becomes too human, or the founder becomes too much of the face of the brand, then you suffer from guru-itis, right? And you see this, where the brand and the guru are inextricably linked. Now look, I'm not knocking Tony Robbins. I had a great meeting with their organization last week. I have tremendous respect for what they do, and Tony does exactly what he wants to do. It's his company, he runs it, he doesn't mind that it's linked to his brand, that's fine. I'm not knocking this concept. I'm just saying, if you would like to have a company to brand that lasts longer than you, if you would like for somebody else to come along one day and perhaps acquire your brand, or if you work for a company where the brand is the founder and you would like to stay at that company in the unfortunate event that they get hit by a bus, then we can't go to this extreme. This guru-itis I see infecting a lot of brands, right? But it's what we got to do. I want it to be more human, so I got to get out there. I got to be the face of the brand. I got to be telling everybody what they need to do. I need to be the next Tony Robbins for my industry, for my brand. This is what you've seen happen again and again and again. And I will acknowledge that it is better than the alternative, right? This is the alternative.
I've been driving a Lincoln since long before anybody paid me to drive one. I didn't do it to be cool. I didn't do it to make a statement. I just liked it.
I want to make something clear. I love Matthew McConaughey. He's my spirit animal. He's basically the coolest person ever. Austinite, fellow Longhorn, hook 'em. And when he does the hook 'em horns, he does it like this, which is just so much cooler. I can't pull that off. I'm like, ee. He's super cool. And these ads came out. Y'all remember this ad? It was actually parodied on Saturday Night Live, right? Because it felt so absurd. It felt so ridiculous. Because this idea that Lincoln and Matthew McConaughey, right? They just didn't go together, right? And I get what Lincoln's trying to do, right? I understand what Lincoln was trying to do. And I'm not knocking the company. Made great products. My wife has a Lincoln Navigator, right? So good products, not knocking. I'm just saying that didn't work. It doesn't work. Why? Because Lincoln as a brand, at least as we stand today and win this one, had no soul. What does Lincoln stand for? Nothing. Nothing. And when you have a brand that has no soul, what is the only option that you have? You co-opt the soul of someone else. And that's why we have celebrity endorsement. We have no real soul. I can't help but notice that you have a soul, Matthew McConaughey. We would like some of your soul. So we're going to stick you in our car. We're going to drive you around because we are utterly soulless. You've never really seen Apple do celebrity endorsement. Because Apple has a soul. Apple has a perspective. And when Steve Jobs was alive, it was very much Steve Jobs. Yes, he would be the spokesperson for the brand, but the brand still had a soul. He wasn't the narrator of the 1984 ad. And even in the years since his death, much of the soul of Steve Jobs has persisted inside of Apple. And if Apple declines and fails or anything, it will be because they forgot that. And the companies and the brands that have declined over the years, I believe, are the companies and the brands that lost their soul. They lost their soul. They forgot what they stood for. They had it at some point. I guarantee you they had it at some point. They wouldn't have been as successful as they did if they didn't have that. They wouldn't have rallied the best team members. They wouldn't have been able to sell their product. It wouldn't have happened if they didn't have a soul, if they didn't have a perspective. They didn't have all the things we talked about earlier. If they didn't have those things, plus a great product, which is absolutely table stakes, you have to do. If they didn't have those things, they wouldn't have been successful. So I know that it was there. I know it was there with Dell. Dell had a scrappiness to it. It was there. People who were there, it was there. Founder left, it was gone. It was never institutionalized. It was never codified. So I said this before, the branding paradox is that brands must abandon the face of their founders if they want to scale. But faceless brands are boring and inhuman. If you want to scale a brand, you have to abandon the face of the founder. You have to abandon the face of the company. And yet, the second you do that, it's the second you start to lose your soul. So what is the solution? Well, a lot of people would say that we need to start telling better stories. We've heard this. Storytelling. Storytelling is how we fix this. If we as a brand have stories and narrative around this, then people will be engaged by that. And I think storytelling is a part of it, but I'm not sure that storytelling is the answer. Stories are big. Stories are important. But while humans love a good story, I believe that it's characters that we crave. While human beings love a good story, it is characters that we crave. These are some famous characters, beloved characters, despised characters, characters that elicit emotion, characters that very often, if you know the movies they played in, you could probably recite some of their famous lines, even though you may not remember the exact plot line of the movie itself. Right? You realize there's only really two stories that get told, right? There's comedies and there's tragedies. There's like love stories and there's the hero's journey, right? You got a hero, something goes bad, the whole rest of the story is them kind of getting back to good, right? That's kind of every story, and then you got romance stories, right? That's it. That's what we got to pick from. People think about Pixar as being great storytellers, and they are. But they're telling the same story again and again and again. What changes? The characters change. The characters change. And I would submit to you that if there is a book, a movie, TV show that you love, it is not because of great screenwriting. It is not because of great storytelling. It is because there is a character that you resonate with. So I said this before, a brand is not a logo. A brand is a fictional character. If you would like for your brand to persist, if you would like for your brand to be meaningful, to have influence, and to last forever, then your brand needs to become a fictional character. Your brand needs to become a fictional character. So that begs the question, how are characters made? Thankfully, this is not a question without an answer. Any of you take any like screenwriting classes or fiction writing classes in school or outside? Anybody? Yeah, I wish. So I would sooner hire somebody with a screenwriting degree or a fiction, like creative writing, fiction writing degree than I would a marketing degree, a digital marketer. And I don't believe that you should be allowed to graduate from any major university with a marketing degree unless you have some type of screenwriting. The ability to craft characters, to produce banter and repartee, all these things are just critical to copywriting and kind of anything. So that's a bit of a rant. But this notion of how are characters made, how are fictional characters made, is not an unknown. It is taught. And the framework is what is called the character diamond. So if you are going to write a fiction story, if you are going to say, I want to create this fictional world that is a world of witchcraft and wizardry. It's going to take place Englandish, right? And you are going to create this entire world. You would need to create characters. And if you were going to create characters, one of the tools that you would use to create those characters is the character diamond. Now, what I'm going to teach you is how to build a character diamond for a brand. This is the most rednecked, bastardized version of a character diamond you'll ever see. If you talk to somebody who actually knows how to really create rich, amazing characters, they will see what I'm about to show and be like, that is just like, that's just some baby stuff, right? Yes. Remember what I said before? It's not about being, accurate all the time. This is correct. All right? This works. And it's because the people that you're going up against from a brand perspective are so pathetic. You want to write a fiction book that has meaning, that has characters, you're going to get some of the greatest writers on planet Earth, right? Good luck with that. J.K. Rowling, she's pretty good. Okay? J.R. Tolkien, have fun with that. All right? C.S. Lewis, come on now. You're going to go up against some of these folks in terms of character creation. I don't want that. Lincoln, got it. The best you came up with is, I don't know, McConaughey's cool. Let's throw some money at him. Boom. I was driving. Anyway, this is the tool they use. This is the framework. So the idea of a character diamond is we're going to plot the primary character traits on this diamond. All right, we're going to plot the meaningful character traits on this diamond to create a character that is multidimensional. Have you ever heard the expression, I like a character to be multidimensional? Or, I didn't really like that movie, the characters were too one-dimensional? This is where this notion comes from. So, it starts with the primary character trait, the North Star. What is the thing that makes this character interesting? What is the thing that makes this character worth learning about? What do they do that's extraordinary? If you are in business, if you're selling somebody a product or service, surely you do something that's good. Surely you do something that is better than just ordinary. They don't have to pay you for ordinary, right? Like, ordinary's free. You can just walk around and pick up ordinary whenever you want. It's just, boom, ordinary, right? If you are going to ask money from someone, you need to do something extraordinary. So what is that? What is that North Star? So let's talk about fictional characters. Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a Spider-Man. A mutant man with spider-like characteristics. Okay? Superman, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, bullets, bum, boo, 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 right? This alien figure that is, nearly indestructible. Harry Potter, boy wizard. That's kind of cool, right? Kid that can talk to snakes and wave a wand. Think about Sherlock Holmes, savant-like genius, can see connections and patterns that mere mortals can't. We see that and we find that very, very interesting, right? Think about any of the characters that you like. There's something interesting and extraordinary about them that is obvious. What is that? We plot that. That's the North Star. So what is that for your business? What is that for you, for your company? That one should be easy. Now, if you have someone who has this amazing gift, what they also need is they need a secondary character trait that is a counterstar. They need something to counterbalance this. So, what was Superman's counterstar? Kryptonite. Now, when we're plotting the North and South, these are external character traits. External, visible from the outside looking in. You learn pretty quickly that while Superman is very powerful, a little pinch of kryptonite basically kills him. We learn that very quickly, right? Both Superman and Harry Potter have a similar counterstar, and it's that they're young boys. Superman, in some of the later ones, gets older, as people have to do, and then they need to develop other things. But in the beginning, he was a nerdy high school, wimp. So now we've got this nerdy young little weakling who, he can up a wall and boo-boo, right? Harry Potter, basically an abandoned orphan, right? With Sherlock Holmes, just a degenerate prick, right? So we've got this savant, and if he was really, really, really smart, but also just like a really good dude, like really nice and everybody liked him, that's kind of obnoxious. If Superman doesn't have kryptonite, that's a boring story. There was a bad guy. Then what happened? Superman came in and beat him up. What happens next week? Same thing. He always wins. That's not fun. There's no conflict. Write this down. No conflict, no interest. We must have conflict. We must have contrast. No contrast, no conflict, no interest. So here what we're looking at, we're plotting the North and the South poles, conflict at the poles. So you've got something that makes you amazing. You're going to have something that's going to counterbalance that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but it's something that makes this interesting. How interesting? Not this all-powerful wizard, but an all-powerful wizard who is a confused, scared boy. That's a bit interesting. That's an interesting character. And what's really fascinating about characters, when you start to really explore this and unpack this, you're going to become obnoxious at movies because you're going to make connections. You're going to realize that's exactly the same character as over here. It's basically the same character. You familiar with the musician Pink? Okay, Pink is Rosie the Riveter. You see these certain characters come up again and again and again. There's certain Wonder Woman-like qualities that come in with this. It's characters that we see come up again and again and again and again and again. It was a good character. Let's reuse that. Let's recycle that. I said there were only really 2, maybe 3 stories. There's only a dozen or so characters. Everything else is a derivation of that character. You got your North Star, you have your counter star. That's what's obvious. That's what makes you both interesting and it's what makes you great and interesting. If we only have these 2, you're what's known as a one-dimensional character. That is a one-dimensional character. You exist purely on this dimension. So now we need to bring in the east and west. This is external, east and west, internal. Internal. On this side, what's your non-negotiable? What's the hill that you're prepared to die on? Remember when I talked about speaking in absolutes? Boom. If you stand for nothing, people don't trust you. I said it before. You have friends that you don't necessarily agree with them and everything. You might vehemently disagree with them, but you still like them. Why? Because you know where they stand. You trust them. The North Star and Counterstar creates interest, a compelling character. The non-negotiable is what causes us to trust them, even when we question their motives. Right? Even when we question their motives a bit. So Sherlock Holmes, the puzzle must be solved. I don't actually care about the crime. I don't actually care about the people who are affected by it. I'm a genius, kind of an asshole, puzzle must be solved. So there's no question. And he will, in every single variation of Sherlock Holmes, including but not limited to the TV show House, and you all watch House? When that was on TV, you realize it's just Sherlock Holmes in a hospital. They weren't even trying to hide it. House, Holmes, Wilson, Watson. It's the same thing, they just changed the place. Only so many characters, only so many stories. All right? Same deal. I don't care about the people. I don't really even care about myself. They'll throw themselves into harm's way. Why? Because the puzzle must be solved. Right? The puzzle must be solved. With Spider-Man, we have this just the innocent. It's protection of the innocents. In every Spider-Man film, half the comic books, he's got a school bus load of kids, like Webb over here, and like the woman he loves over here, and he's having to choose. It's like, it's this conflict, but it's all about the protection of the innocents. Right? We see this again and again and again. There must be some type of hill that they're prepared to die on. It's not always obvious, but it's always there. It's always thoughtful. And the best writers, they don't just make it obvious what it is. They'll build something into where it is revealed over time, because remember, this is internal. This is internal, so we're going to reward our readers who stick around and who learn more, who peel back the layers of the onion. We have our North Star, Counterstar, our non-negotiable. Just this will make for very interesting and compelling characters. I said before, what did Stan Lee do that beat DC Comics? He added the fourth. He added the fourth, and that is the quirk, the mask, the flaw, the weakness. The North Star and Counterstar are what creates a compelling character. They're what make a character interesting. The non-negotiable, the hill you're prepared to die on, is what creates trust. The weakness, the mask, the flaw, the quirk, that's what makes you human. That is what makes you human. That is your not-so-secret sin. For Spider-Man, he absolutely bore a tremendous amount of guilt because he allowed a robber to get away because he didn't want to have to deal with it. And that robber wound up mugging and murdering his Uncle Ben, his beloved Uncle Ben. And so he had all this guilt, from that. If you look at Superman, Superman had Superman, Kryptonite, Truth, Justice, and the American Way, and that was it. And it was boring. So in the 1980s, with the Christopher Reeves movies, what do? They made him awkward and bad with women. It's the best they could do, best they can come up with. Right? But it was better than nothing. They had to have something that's like, makes him human. Something that makes him human. Batman. And I know I'm using a lot of comic book references, so if you're not a comic book nerd, I'm sorry. We can unpack some of your favorite ones, but most of the time, if you hadn't read the books, you've at least seen the movie from time to time. But there's different variations of Batman. The early version of Batman, when it was, in the 60s, it's like, bang, pop. You remember that TV show, that era? Obviously, you have basically his primary character trait was he was rich. So he had all like the cool toys and the stuff and the vigilante, kind of thing. His character trait was, the secondary one was he just had all this, a bit of like rage because his parents were killed, right? And so that was what drove him. And then over here, it's all about justice. Justice for those who can't help themselves. But he didn't really have a strong thing. It's basically a rich guy who's running around in tights because, he wants to fight crime and be a bit of a vigilante because he believes in justice. Like, that's okay, but that's going to wear thin after a while. So what started happening with Batman, now we started getting into the Dark Knight. So when you see certain versions of Batman, watch some of the dudes nod their heads, and some of the rest of y'all are like, what the hell are you talking about? All right, so the Dark Knight, this is when he's borderline insane. Like, you're like, is this guy, like, what's wrong with him? He's crazy. So the Christian Bale version later on, when you got, the Joker and all that stuff, you're mega questioning this dude's motives. You're like, yeah, I get it. I kind of like it, but like, you went way too far, bro. And that was when it got interesting. That was when DC learned Stan Lee's secret. If you want somebody to fall in love with a superhero, you have to make them human. Interest, trust, lovability, humanity. These are the things that must be there. And if there's one that you're going to screw up, it's this one. You're going to answer that quirk, weak, flaw like you're at a freaking job interview. What's your flaw? Sometimes I just try too hard. Shut up. So let's build a character diamond. I want to walk through the steps in the process for doing this.
So what's your flaw?
I'll show you. Frankly, you've been exposed to some of it as recently as just now. Step one, identify the brand model. So who's going to be the model for your brand? So choose the person or persons that most exemplify the brand's values and traits. So you're going to know, you're like, this person, they're a digital marketer. This person, that's us. They're us. Like, there might be other people who are great and they're talented and you value them, but there's some people who are like, they're a culture fit. You haven't yet defined what culture fit is. We're going to do that, but you know who they are. If you're the founder, congratulations, it's you. Yet again, you win by default. And it is usually the founder or the CEO, and it can sometimes be a collection of people. So when I went through this exercise, I thought about, the Russ and the Mollys, and the me's and the Justins and the Richards. I thought about what makes this group work, because we all fit, we all gel, it works. What about it works? So get the people in your mind. Again, if it's just you, that's pretty easy. Picture yourself. Step two, what are their favorite books? And again, if it's you, think about you. What are your favorite books, favorite movies, favorite TV shows, favorite comic books, favorite sports figures, favorite Bible or religious stories? What are the stories that resonate with you? What are those stories that truly resonate with you? If you like certain books, ones you return to again and again, if there's TV shows that you just wouldn't miss, why? We don't have to answer the why for now, just write them down. There's a reason why you liked them. And what's interesting, if you go through this exercise, or if you ask it of the people you're modeling, you'll start to see some parallels. Even if it's different generations, you'll start to see some parallels. It may not be the same movie, you're like, that's the same kind of genre, or that's the same basic story. That's really funny. You'll start to see these parallels. So you're going to write these down. Step three, we're going to group the appealing character traits. So now, list the favorite characters. So you listed all your favorite stories. What were your favorite characters from those? And note their appealing traits. Then group them based on general themes. So I've got a link here where you can see a list of character traits. Notice this is for fictionwritersmentor.com. Fiction writers get this. Screenwriters get this. Marketers suck at it. Get better. Here's another one, writerswrite.co.za. 175 positive character traits. I like them because they're accessible, adaptable, adventurous, affable, affectionate, agreeable, ambitious, amicable, amusing, articulate, balanced, benevolent, brave, bright, brilliant, broad-minded, capable, confident. Get it? Go like over here. Prudent, punctual, quick-witted, quiet, rational, relaxed, reliable, reserved, resourceful, responsible, responsive, romantic, scrupulous, secure, self-confident, self-disciplined, selfless, sensible, sensitive, shy, unassuming, uncomplaining, understanding, upright, versatile, vivacious, warm, well-read, well-rounded, willing, wise, witty. Run that list through the characters that you wrote down from the stories that you like, and you will find, holy crap. When I wrote this down, the characters that I liked the most were generally sarcastic smartasses. Does that surprise anyone? I was a big fan of Spider-Man. He was kind of a smartass. He just was. I also, there were other characters that I liked where they were masked or they were hidden. So I very much liked Great Expectations and Les Miserables, where it was this notion of the secret benefactor, right? This idea of being hidden, being behind, doing, working your magic while nobody can see what's going on. I liked the wizard from The Wizard of Oz. Nobody else did. I thought it was cool that he was back there doing all the stuff, right? So what are these things that you'll begin to notice? I liked characters that were selfless. Some of my favorite athletes growing up were the athletes that took a lower contract to get the salary cap, to get under the salary cap so that another major player could come into their team. Craig Biggio did that for Craig Bagwell for the Houston Astros back in the late 90s. Doesn't matter to most of you, but I remember thinking that. I mean, I like Craig Biggio. That's a cool dude, right? I like that notion of self-sacrifice, right? So we saw that emerging. The funny thing about character traits, the characters we love from the stories we love, usually the reason we love them is because they display an aspect that we like about ourselves. And it's not always the character trait that we put on display for others. Sometimes, again, it's a bit more aspirational. Sometimes it's something you wish you were like that. You've seen it emerge from time to time. You've done this thing, and it felt really, really good, but you're still kind of a prick, so you don't do it always, right? So, but in general, if there's a character that you like, I'll submit to you 9 times out of 10, the reason you like that character is because there are aspects of their personality, of the character, that exemplifies things that you most like in yourself. That's how we work as human beings. There was a building in New York City, and it was just known. It had a notoriously slow elevator. It was an old elevator, funky elevator. They didn't want to replace the elevator, but the elevator was really, really, really slow. And they brought people in. Is there anything we need to speed up the elevator? No, it's just old technology. If you want the elevator to go faster, you got to replace the elevator. Well, the building wasn't going to do that. So you know how they fixed it? They put a mirror in the elevator lobby. They put mirrors on the elevator doors. So now, people didn't complain that the elevator took so long, because while they stood there, they got to look at themselves. Interesting, isn't it? You realize you are most interested and most fascinated in the people who are most fascinated in you? You ever want somebody to really like you? Ask them a lot of questions about themselves. They'll think you're brilliant, even though they don't know anything about you. When we start to realize just how astoundingly arrogant and selfish and self-absorbed we as human beings are, we can learn and unpack a lot about what is it that works with us. And I will tell you, if there's a character you love, it's because there's something baked into that character that reminds you of something you love about yourself, and it's probably real. And even if it doesn't come out all the time, there's no reason you can't bake it into your brand. Because the beautiful thing about a fictional character is you get to choose. You get to choose. It's a bit more like a caricature. So group those appealing character traits. And then we simply plot the congruent traits on the diamond. What is your primary character trait? What is that thing that makes you you? That makes you great, that makes you extraordinary? What's the counter to that? Now, it could be a number of things. It could be another thing. And sometimes the secondary character trait, you can't quite decide, is this there? Is it a flaw? Again, I would simply submit to you, try to get the external here. This will be the obvious, and the internal here. All right, the internal here. And then what's that core value? When we think about the hill you're prepared to die on, more times than not, this over here is going to be that belief. It's going to be that core value. That's what's going to hold you there. So, for example, let's take a look at digital marketers. Normally, the only way that you would know this is if you came to work here. So this is something that we teach internally. We teach as an aspect of our onboarding. We don't publicize it. And I don't recommend when it comes to your character diamond that you publicize it either. This is for internal use. So I'm showing you here. I ask you please don't write a blog post about it or something like that, okay? So I'm showing you here as an example. Digital marketer. Our primary character trait is we are marketing savants. I realize that. I think we're just really good at this. And everybody who worked at the company, they were also really, really, really good. When Russ Henneberry joined the company, again, he's no longer with the company, he went off on his own, but while he was here, I just remember thinking, this guy's freaking smart. He's still a faculty member, by the way. He's still in here teaching classes all the time. You know why? He's still freaking smart. He taught me so much. I remember Molly Pittman showing up as an intern. She'd been working at Buffalo Trace Distillery doing their social media part-time as an intern when she joined here as an intern. Could tell pretty early on, she's smart. She's really, really smart. Teach her a little bit of something on marketing, she'd go, got it, come back with it improved. She's smart. Richard Lindner, smart. These are people I can explain a little bit of something to badly. They get it, come back and it's better. Right? Justin Rondo, again and again and again and again and again. People who are just smart. They just have a knack for marketing. They have a knack for marketing, savant-like qualities. Now, what's interesting is this informs what do you put on display. Digital marketer used to be known for our split test results. Even pre-digital marketer, it was they test everything. And we'd publish our split test results. When I realized, and I did this in 2015, October 22nd, 2015, when I realized, no, we're savants. Decided then, we're not going to publish split test results anymore. You know why? Savants don't show their work. Savants don't explain to you why they came to the conclusion. Savants don't need your approval. Savants don't need your validation. And if you disagree with them, they go, I don't care, man, I guess do it your way. Every savant-like character I'd ever seen was generally ambivalent to whether or not people believed them, because they knew they were right. And god dang it, that's us. We're nothing if not arrogant. So we stopped publishing our split test results. And people say, like, well, I tried it, and that didn't work as well for me. Well, I mean, you did something wrong, I don't know. That's what we do. How do you know it works? We tried it, so that's what we did. Well, can I see your data? No. And you know what? There's people who don't like us because of that. We've lost corporate deals because they wanted to see all the data and they wanted to really understand. There's a big word that describes like what exactly the process was that you went through to get it. What's your heuristic? And I remember being like, I took a stats class in college, so I think I know what that means. But when they said it, I was like, if you're asking for our heuristic for this, you're not going to like us. And I already don't like you. This ain't going to work. There's lots of really, really smart people out there who you should probably go and do business with because they're not savants. They're more educators. They're the academics. And there's lots of them. One of our competitors in the space is literally called Marketing Profs. I know some of the founders of it. They're great people, great company, great content. Totally different from us. Completely different character dynamics. We are not professorial. You probably could tell that by now. That's not who we are. We'll teach you, but we're not going to spend a tremendous amount of time explaining the data behind it. We try it. We know it works. We do this stuff. We're also joyful and irreverent. So there's a couple of different types of savants that you see show up time and time again. The first is the brooding savant. So Sherlock Holmes is the brooding savant. Savant, kind of a prick. That's the brooding savant. There's the other type of savant that's us, and that's the idiot savant. Right? The savant that like knows a lot of stuff, but like doesn't really know a lot about anything else but that thing and is kind of a goofball, and you wouldn't really expect them. One example of an idiot savant, Michael Scott from The Office. Michael Scott, total idiot, total jackass. When it came time to make the sale, just go right into that mode and boom, close them at the Chili's. Right? You see it again and again and again and again and again, this character of the idiot savant. And you know what? We love that character. We root for that character. I was like, that's us. We're joyful and irreverent. You will never see me on stage. So I'll give you a couple backstories. So Damon John and I, now we've known each other for a few years. We're like friends now. I can pretty much say whatever I want. He'll just laugh. But the first time he spoke at Traffic and Conversion Summit, we had never met. We'd never met face to face. We had done a business deal because he funded a company on Shark Tank that was in the survival and preparedness space. And so we had just kind of started working together because we had a business in that space as well. So that's how we got to know one another. So we were beginning to work on this business deal, and then I was like, hey, we got this event coming up, Traffic and Conversion Summit, would you come out and speak? And so he gave us a reduction on his normal speaking fee, and he came out. But keep in mind, I'd never met him face to face. We'd had a couple phone conversations very, very early on in the relationship. So it's day 3 of Traffic and Conversion Summit. I am a complete idiot at this point. Like, my brain has ceased to work for many hours before that, right? I don't think, there's no more filter. So he walks out on stage, and I look at him and I go, God dang it, he's my height. And, you can't tell on camera. I guess maybe the camera makes you taller. But I'm what you'd call efficient from a height perspective. Way more efficient than Justina, who just takes up so much room. Yeah. Scary. Yeah. So much energy, yeah. Getting all the sunlight before I can. The rest of us are like, dude, let me have some. But I look out and I see him, I'm like, oh, dang, he's short. So he walks out on stage, and I just go, hey, man, short people unite. Like, gave him the nuckies. And I didn't even, like, that's probably not a smart thing to say. Now, thankfully, he gave me, like, fist bump, and he has a good sense of humor, about stuff. But that's the kind of crap that I do. We had Richard Branson this last year. Richard Branson's people were very thorough, very like, we went the questions ahead of time, and he did this and this and this, and blah, blah, and the water bottle that's up there, it shouldn't have a logo on it, and we forgot about that, so it had a TNC logo, and if you watch the videos, he does like this, because he can't have a logo associated with him that's not one of his companies, and I guess he had a water company or something like that. It was all that crap, and I was like, I can't interview him, because I'll say something stupid that will get us in trouble, and will make him hate us. I just know me. I'll do it. So Roland interviewed him, my business partner, because Roland's a grown-up. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it, but he does it, right? So that's just us. That's just us. This idea of banter, this irreverence, this joyfulness, this silliness, this goofiness, that's us. And it, frankly, makes the fact that we're really smart slightly less obnoxious. Because if all we were was a smart person who knew it, that's obnoxious. Hill we're prepared to die on must be proven, must be step by step. We believe theory is for posers. You go back to the We Believe video, you'll see this come up again and again and again and again and again. Data without interpretation, that belongs in the special circle of hell along with the people who popularize it. Data without interpretation. You're just going to throw data at me and not tell me what to do with it? You got no step by step? Screw you. You're just trying to make you look smart and me feel dumb. I hate you. All right? That's how I feel. Shouldn't always say it that way. But then we come to the weakness. Impulsive. Impulsive. We are. And we screw up a lot. We make a lot of mistakes because of our impulsiveness. We try things that aren't quite ready yet. We push them out the door a little too fast. And we screw up. And we fall on our face. I remember the very first time that we ran a test and it failed miserably. And I was doing a weekly newsletter at this point, and I had nothing to talk about because the only thing I had done that week had failed miserably. And I was like, all right, what are we going to do? And I was like, I guess I'm going to report on the failure. It was the most popular one we'd ever done. And so we do that. If we mess something up, we'll talk about it. And what I've heard time and time and time again is people come up and they go, you know what I love about Digital Marketer? You're so down to earth. Everybody at your company is so down to earth. What does that mean when we say down to earth? Human. That's humans. We're the ones that are down on earth. We're not these ethereal beings. We're not the guru on the top of the mountain. We're not the academic on the ivory tower. We're the people just like you, down to earth. It's one of the greatest compliments anybody can ever pay your brand. So this is us. Idiot savants, must be regimented, must be proven, must be step by step, who are impulsive and screw up a lot. Say things they maybe don't mean, or even if they do, they probably still shouldn't have said. Rush out half-baked ideas that don't quite work. So I ask you, who is this character? A savant, it's joyful and irreverent, very regimented, very proven step by step, but quite impulsive, screws up a lot. Who is this character? Have we seen this character before? Have you seen this character in movies and films? We've seen this character in, this film. Digital Marketer is Forrest Gump. This is our company. This is who we are. I mean, if you think about it, right? Obviously savant, right? You have this savant-like brilliance, but this joyful and this irreverent. So I went to the White House again, and I met the president again, right? Just goofy, goofy, goofy. Gump, why'd you put that weapon together so quickly? Because you told me to, drill sergeant. Right? They show him, there's the scenes of him mowing the grass on the thing. If you haven't seen the movie, you really should. It's a great movie. But he's mowing the grass on the football field, and it's just these perfectly straight lines. Right? We see this again and again and again, the precision. Right? That's why he works so well in the military, how him practicing ping pong, all this other stuff. We see this proven step by step. We also see him, there's Lieutenant Dan, and he just walks off. He's waving as he walks off the boat and splashes into the water, and then you see the boat crash into the dock, right? We see this. I gotta pee. Remember that scene? When he's there meeting the president? How do you feel? I gotta pee. Molly did that once from stage. She left stage. Her mic was still on. And she was like, oh my God, I gotta pee. And left stage. And people were like, are you mad? Nope. It's perfect. That's who we are. It's who we are. It was a direct quote. It's about as gumpy as it gets. I get upset, and I'll say this to them, I'm like, guys, we're not gumpy enough on this. We got to get a little gumpier on this. Sorry, I ruined your Black Panther party. I mean, it's again and again and again, right? If you've seen the movie, you know, like, this is us. Digital marketer is Forrest Gump. So I would encourage you, and I would invite you to figure out, who are you, and then associate it to a known, lovable character. There's two ways you could do this, believe it or not. I just showed you the method of determining who you are, plotting who you are, then figuring out who the character is. You could also do the inverse. You go back and say, you know what? I love this character. I'm going to build a brand around this character. You could do that. You can absolutely do that. The only charge that I would give you is make sure that it is still authentic to who you are and who the leadership team is. Because if you try to force an inauthentic character on a brand that is not ready for it, it will fail miserably. There needs to be some pieces and components. But it doesn't have to all be there. Again, you can decide to be certain things that you aren't. Have you ever had a caricature drawn of you? Gone like a fair and somebody draws a caricature of you? Yeah, I mean, they're going to take an aspect of you and they're going to make it, like, if you've got a slightly large chin, they're going to be like, you have a giant chin, right? If you got big ears, like, they're out to here, you're freaking Dumbo, right? That's what a caricature artist does. You are a caricature artist for your brand. Emphasize the aspects of your caricature that you want emphasized, de-emphasize those that you want de-emphasized. And know this, you're going to write down a lot of stuff that is you and it's unique and it's authentic, but it doesn't apply to the business you or to the company you. So for me, I've got a different character diamond for Ryan Deiss, the husband, Ryan Deiss, the father, even Ryan Deiss, the CEO of Digital Marketer. I am different. It is a different character that walks around this office when the cameras ain't on and I'm not wearing this than when I'm here serving in this role. Are any of them inauthentic to who I am? No, they're all me. They're just different expressions and different emphases of who I am. It's only multiple personality disorder syndrome if you don't know which one you should be at a given time. Okay? But I would argue that if you aren't willing to play a particular role, a particular character in life's appropriate moments, that's when you're just kind of an asshole. You know, and it's become very, very common. People are like, yeah, but I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be authentic. Like, okay, can you be a real, authentic you that isn't a total jerk? Like, that isn't obnoxious to this particular setting? It doesn't mean that you're inauthentic, all right? It means I'm going to bring the best that I have to this particular place. And you know what? Yeah, I'm going to behave a little bit differently when I'm out to dinner with my wife than when I'm at my kid's birthday party. Both me, both authentic, but I'm going to be true to which character I'm playing in that moment. So this can also be a bit therapeutic to you personally, I've found, but for the sake of your brand, it's something that you need to do. Because now, we don't need to teach people at Digital Marketer who I am and who Russ and Molly and some of these other founders who are members of the founding team who made this. We don't need to tell their stories. We need to say we're Forrest Gump. Go watch this movie. Go read this book. Go check this out. Now the character can persevere. And we don't have to wonder if it's a character that people will love. It won 6 Academy Awards. We know they love it. So that's what I would charge you with. Who is your brand's character? And it should be an actual fictional character that you can point on. Sometimes it's a mold. Sometimes it's a bit of an amalgamation. At Survival Life, I think what we came up with is it was Indiana Jones, and it was like if Indiana Jones and some other dude had a love child, which biologically didn't make sense, but it worked. All right, it worked. At Praxio, the character diamond for Praxio is the emerging of Morpheus from the Matrix and Gandalf. So you've got a little bit of I can just plug in the stuff that you need to know. I know Kung Fu, but also a bit of a sense of humor. It's like, what if Morpheus had a sense of humor? So you can pick. You can create a little bit. It's like, if he was doing this, but then it was also drunk, right? Like, come up with it. Have fun with it, right? But make sure that it's not a character that's so ridiculous and outlandish that it could ever actually exist, or it would be totally unlikable. So So that is your charge. So why does this matter? This is how you scale with soul. The character of Steve Jobs is imbued into Apple. It's there. It's there. And if you want to know what Apple's character is, it looks a whole lot like Sherlock Holmes. It looks a whole lot like Sherlock Holmes. By the way, what's Sherlock Holmes' weakness, mask, or flaw? Anybody know? Drugs. Opium in the original Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In every other iteration, it's been some drug abuse. And if were it not for drug abuse, we would not ever have rooted for that character. Because he's smarter than us. He's kind of a prick. He has no sense of humanity, real justice around him. He just wants to solve these puzzles. But look, he's flawed. He's got an addiction. And even if you don't have an addiction, you can be like, how cool that somebody with that type of struggle could do all these amazing things. You don't have that. We don't like that character. We don't like that character at all. Steve Jobs, definitely savant, a bit more of the brooding savant. Kind of the thing that made him work, he was fairly open about his LSD usage. You're like, all right. And so when they did, the only real kind of celebrity endorsement they did is when they did some stuff with the Beatles. They got the Beatles one and had that out there. That fit. That was a connection. But same deal. We're going to solve the puzzle. This is going to work. It's going to be perfect design. Oh, it didn't work for you? You're holding it wrong. Remember that? Come on the phone. The antenna didn't work. Stop holding it like that. What? But it's got a soul. You may not always like it. You may not always agree with it, but you know where they stand. It's how you stand out. Right? How do you stand out? I want to be different. Stand for something then. Stand for something. Make your weakness known. And it's actually how you engender loyalty. I remember taking my kids to Disney World. We got there, the first princess they saw, they were like, bye. I mean, it was dead to them. So they could go and hug some fictional character. Right? We are loyal to characters. We're loyal to characters. I didn't really watch Game of Thrones at all, but I know friends who did. And when their favorite character was killed off, that was it. Like, their week was just done. They're like, I'm angry. I remember reading, Lord of the Rings when I thought in the third one, Return of the King, that, and spoiler alert, so if you haven't read it or seen the movies, sorry, I thought Frodo was dead. I thought, like, the spider thing killed Frodo. I mean, you were just made to believe that that's it. Frodo's just gone. I remember being there. I'm like I'm a 20-something-year-old college kid, and I'm like crying. I'm like, killed Frodo, you bastard. Love Frodo. Why? Why do we care? They're fictional. We know they're fictional. Why do we care? Because we're loyal to the characters that we love. Because the characters that we love are the characters that tell us something about ourselves. You kill one of these characters that we love, you just killed a little piece of me. So we root for the characters that we love. We're rooting for ourselves. Mirrors in lobbies, y'all. Mirrors in lobbies. If you can choose your character, and you can choose it well, and it is a character that you know is already beloved, then you will be the mirror in the lobby to an enormous number of bored customers. And again, how do you screw this up? Go namby-pamby on the weakness part. Your customers won't trust you until they know who you are, warts and all. If you won't come clean on the stuff that you're bad at, they will not trust you. And if you don't let your crazy out every now and then, they'll wonder what happened to you. It's rare that you will find me on stage or on camera not in a blue blazer and either a light blue or a white shirt. Anybody ever notice that? Anybody ever notice that? This is the character. Okay? And this is the character. And part of the reason that I started wearing a nicer blazer is because everybody else who I was competing against at the time wore t-shirt, flip-flops, and cussed a lot. And I said, I don't want to look like them. Right? So I'm going to be the one that says, please and thank you, sir and ma'am. I'm going to dress like a professional because I'm talking about business. I'm talking about money. I'm going to act like I deserve to be there. But every now and then, and by every now and then I mean most of the time, I'm still going to be me. And I'm still going to be joyful, and I'm still going to be irreverent, and so is our company. So we're going to show up. We're going to do a great job. We're going to have good design. We're going to have a great product. But every now and then, we're going to let a little bit of our crazy out. And we're going to signal to the people who ain't us, you should go now. And we're simultaneously going to signal to the people who are us, come on, come in for a, bro hug. Let's do this thing. And that's why people come to us and they say, I love the brand. That's why people put the gears on their computers, right? That's why Traffic and Conversion Summit is going to have 10,000 attendees next year, right? That's why. And everybody else is just talking about marketing. So your turn. Inside your brand blueprint template is a character diamond template. So you'd write your company name, AKA whoever the character or story is. We have digital marketer as an example in there as well. Again, I just ask that you please, please, please don't share that. So those are the biggies that I would like for you to fill out as a part of this. So what we're going to do now, take a break, and we come back, talk about how to audit this thing and close up the session.
So, how long do you think? About 15 minutes? I got some work to do.
A little bit of work to do.
A little bit of work.
Yeah, I don't expect, so I'll just say, I don't expect you to get your character diamond totally figured out on the break.
Good to know.
I would just say, go ahead and begin to jot down some of those ideas. What are the movies that you love, film, what are some of the characters that you love, and see if there isn't something that jumps out at you that couldn't be applied. Maybe try to see if you can get that knocked out during the break. But that's why we got a 10-day execution cycle.
Exactly. All right, so we'll give them about 15 minutes. So
A 15-minute break.
We'll be back at 10 till. All right?
Thanks, y'all.